Okay, picture this. It's a crisp, sunny Friday morning, March 3rd, 1876. You're in Bath County, Kentucky, near this tiny place called Olympia Springs.
Hmm.
You're outside, enjoying the clear blue sky. It's peaceful. And then suddenly you hear this wet snap on the ground. Then another one.
You'd probably think it was acorns or something, right?
Exactly. Or maybe some weird hail.
Yeah.
But you look down, and it's not ice. It's chunks of raw red meat.
It really does sound like the opening of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Or, some surrealist novel. But this actually happened. It's a documented event.
It's totally one of those moments where reality is just stranger than fiction. And that's what we're doing today on this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're tackling one of the most bizarre, I guess, meteorological events in American history.
The Great Kentucky Meat Shower of 1876.
That's the one.
And it's a great headline.
Yeah.
It grabs you.
Yeah.
But our mission today is to get past that initial shock. We want to really understand what happened. What was that stuff?
Right. And how did people at the time and even now try to figure it out? Because it's this amazing collision of folklore and early science.
And we've got some incredible sources to work with. We're not just dealing with rumors here.
No, not at all.
We have original reports from Scientific American, the New York Times, all from 1876. We've got medical journals from the time as Louisville Medical News. Then there's Charles Fort, the famous chronicler of weird stuff.
And we even have modern updates, right? From Transylvania University.
Yep, and the Bath County History Museum. So we have the whole 150-year arc of the story.
Okay, so let's set the scene properly. Bath County, Kentucky. It's between 11 a.m. and noon.
A totally clear day. That's a key detail.
Yeah.
No storms, not much wind.
And this whole thing was over pretty quickly, right? It wasn't an all-day event.
No, just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Very, very localized.
So let's get to our main witness. A farmer's wife, Mrs. Crouch. She's on her porch making soap.
Which is such a great detail, right? It's so domestic, so normal. Lye, kettles, this very grounded task.
And she's about 40 steps from her house when it starts. She actually described it as snowing meat.
That phrase is just so visceral. It really sticks with you.
But she also noticed a sound, didn't she? It wasn't just a quiet snowfall.
She did. She said the pieces made a snapping-like noise when they hit the ground. And that's a huge clue. It tells you this stuff had density. It wasn't fluffy.
It was solid, hitting the ground with some force.
Exactly.
So the meat snow stops, and people start to look around. How big of an area are we talking about?
The reports say a strip of land about 100 yards long by 50 yards wide.
So basically an American football field, just dotted with flesh.
That's the image, yeah.
Eh.
And the pieces weren't tiny either. Most were about 2 inches by 2 inches.
But some were bigger.
Oh, yeah. At least one was measured at 4 by 4 inches. That is a substantial piece of something falling out of a clear sky.
And here's where it gets even more intense. We have another local, a grocer named Joe Jordan, and he adds the sense of smell.
Right. And his quote is pretty unforgettable. He said, "The smell was offensive to the extreme, like that of a dead body."
Okay, so snapping sounds, visible chunks of meat, and the smell of decay. So for the Crouch family, living in 1876 rural Kentucky, what's their first thought?
A sign from God, an omen. And you really can't blame them. Without any other framework, divine intervention is a pretty logical leap.
But not everyone went straight to prayer. And this is the part that just blows my mind. 2 local men, they decided the best way to investigate this foul-smelling sky meat was to taste it.
It is honestly one of the most baffling details in the entire record.
Yeah.
Despite that dead body smell Joe Jordan described, these 2 guys went ahead and performed, an organoleptic analysis.
They put it in their mouths. I can't. Today, you'd call a hazmat team. Back then, I guess your tongue was a scientific instrument.
Seems like it.
So what was the verdict? Did it taste like chicken?
They judged it to be either mutton, which is lamb, or possibly venison. They were convinced it was some kind of game meat.
So we've got a clear sky, a field of smelly meat, and a couple of guys doing a taste test. This story was bound to get out.
Oh, it went viral, 19th century style. Scientific American, the New York Times, the telegraph wires lit up. And that's when the scientific community got interested.
They wanted a rational explanation.
Exactly. They wanted to debunk the superstition. So let's get into the theories. The first big one came from a guy named Leopold Brandeis.
Okay, and what was his idea?
Well, Brandeis was a water analyst, and he published his theory in a journal called The Sanitarian. He was completely convinced it wasn't meat at all.
Oh, so if it wasn't meat, despite, the taste test, what did he think it was?
He said it was nostoc.
Nostoc. Sounds like a Bond villain. What is that?
It's a type of cyanobacteria. Basically, it forms these jelly-like colonies, and the key thing about nostoc is that it can be dry and almost invisible, but when it gets wet, it swells up into this huge gelatinous mass.
Ah, so his theory was it was already on the ground and it just puffed up.
Either that, or it blew in on the wind and swelled up when it landed. People used to call it star jelly or witch's butter because it seemed to appear from nowhere after it rained. Brandeis was certain the locals were just, simple folk mistaking algae for meat.
That feels a little condescending, but there's a huge flaw in that theory, isn't there?
A massive one. Charles Fort pointed it out in his famous book, The Book of the Damned. He just said, it wasn't raining.
Right. The sky was clear. Mrs. Crouch was outside making soap, not running from a downpour.
Exactly. The whole nostoc theory needs water to work. Plus, the texture was all wrong. Nostoc is jelly. The witnesses described something fibrous that snapped. You don't mistake jelly for venison.
Okay, so theory number 1 is out. Now let's talk about my personal favorite, the cosmic meat theory.
This one is just fantastic. A modern professor, Kurt Gödde, found references to this idea. The theory was that the meat came from the animals of an exploding planet.
An exploding planet, full of sheep and deer that then rained down on Kentucky.
Essentially, yes. That its biological debris drifted through space and just happened to fall into our atmosphere.
Was this a serious scientific proposal? Please tell me it was.
Well, we have to be careful. The idea was floated, but it was mostly popularized as satire. A humorist named William Livingston Alden wrote a piece in the New York Times joking about it, comparing it to a meteor shower. He called them meteors.
Meteors, that's brilliant. So it was more people poking fun at the whole thing.
Pretty much. But while they were joking, actual scientists were doing lab work. Samples were sent off for analysis. Dr. Alan McLean Hamilton got some.
And he did not find algae.
Definitely not. He put a sample under his microscope and published his findings. He identified it, quite specifically, as lung tissue.
Lung tissue. Wow.
Very specific. And he went further. He said the structure was almost identical to the lung of a horse or a human infant.
Whoa, okay, that took a dark turn. Horse or human infant, how could those be confused?
Well, you have to remember, this is 1876 microscopy. The little air sacs in the lungs, the alveoli, would have looked structurally very similar, but it gets even more complex. Other samples sent to other scientists found different things.
Like what?
Cartilage and striated muscle tissue.
So we have lung, muscle, and cartilage. It's definitely animal tissue. It definitely fell from the sky. But we haven't solved how it got there.
Which brings us to the leading theory, the one that's held up since 1876, proposed by Dr. Louis D. Kastenbein in the Louisville Medical News.
Okay, let's hear it. What's the real explanation?
Vultures.
Vultures.
Black vultures or turkey vultures, to be specific. Both are super common in Kentucky.
Okay, but how? Vultures eat meat. They don't make it rain, do they?
They do, in a way. Vultures have this very effective, if kind of gross, defense mechanism. When they're threatened or if they need to make a quick getaway after a big meal, they vomit.
To lighten the load so they can fly faster.
Precisely. It's projectile vomiting is an escape plan. And if you have a whole flock of them,
Wait, one does it and it sets the others off.
it can be a chain reaction. It's a known behavior. One vulture in the flock gets startled and disgorges its meal, and the others just follow suit.
Oh my God, so you have a whole flock flying over Mrs. Crouch's farm.
Maybe they get startled, hit a weird air current. Who knows? One vomits, then 10 vomit, then 20. And they're flying at altitude.
And the wind just scatters it.
Scatters the contents of their stomachs over a 100 by 50-yard area. This explains everything.
Okay, let's run through the checklist. It explains the snapping sound.
Yep. Wet, heavy, semi-digested chunks of meat would absolutely make that sound.
It explains the variety of tissues, the lung, the muscle.
Because vultures aren't picky eaters. They rip off whatever they can and swallow it whole.
And it definitely explains the offensive smell the grocer described.
It wasn't fresh meat. It was regurgitated carrion. And, sadly for our two taste testers,
Oh no. It explains why they thought it was mutton or venison.
because it probably was mutton or venison.
Yeah.
It had just been, pre-processed by a bird.
I think that's the single grossest detail in all of history, but it makes perfect sense. It's the only theory that really fits all the facts.
It is, to this day, the most plausible scientific explanation. It turns this divine miracle into a simple, if disgusting, biological reflex.
So that was 1876. But the story doesn't end there. It kind of resurfaced recently, didn't it?
It did. In 2004, Professor Kurt Gödde at Transylvania University was cleaning out an old collection. He found a little glass vial, preserved in alcohol, with a faded label. All it said was, Olympia Springs.
No way. The actual meat, a surviving sample.
The actual meat. It's believed to be the last known piece of the Great Kentucky Meat Shower.
That is incredible. A piece of 130-year-old vulture vomit. Did they test it with modern DNA tech?
They did. Code sent it off for analysis. This was the big chance to finally solve the horse versus infant versus deer question.
What was it?
Inconclusive.
Nah, really? That's such a letdown.
Yeah, unfortunately. The sample was just too old, too degraded. The DNA couldn't be properly sequenced. So the vulture theory explains the how, but we still don't know the specific what.
Well, even without a definitive DNA match, the legacy of this thing is amazing. I saw that Bath County has really embraced it.
Oh, they have. That sample is a local treasure. It's usually at the Musnik Medical and Science Museum. In 2024, the Bath County History Museum had a special exhibit for it. And then they have a festival now.
Yes, the festival. In 2025, they celebrated the 149th anniversary.
Drew a crowd of nearly 500 people.
And they had a mystery meat chili cook-off.
They did.
You just have to love a town with that sense of humor. Come for the history, stay for the potentially regurgitated chili.
It really shows how folklore can become part of a community's identity. It's not the place where something gross happened. It's the place where something extraordinary happened.
And it's not just a local thing anymore either. Major podcasts have covered it. There's even a kid's book about it. It's become this touchstone for weird American history.
And it helps to put it into the broader context of what's sometimes called animal rain.
Right, like when frogs or fish fall from the sky.
Exactly. That usually happens because of water spouts, tornadoes over water that suck up small animals and drop them somewhere else.
But the Kentucky case was different because it wasn't whole animals, it was parts.
Correct. And that's what makes the vulture theory so elegant. It wasn't a weather event, it was a biological one. A very crucial distinction.
So to sum this all up, we've gone from a sunny day where a woman thought God was sending a message, to a satire about cosmic meat, to a serious microscopic analysis of lung tissue, all the way to a jar of century-old bird vomit in a university basement.
It's just a perfect testament to human curiosity, isn't it? For 150 years, people have been obsessed with this. We just had this deep need to understand anomalies. When the world breaks its own rules, we can't let it go. We have to try and solve it.
It's true. And, even though the vulture theory is almost certainly the right answer, a little part of me still loves the cosmic meat idea. It's just more romantic.
Well, that might be a good final thought to leave people with. When we look up at the sky, we often see what we want to see. The Crouch family saw a miracle. The humorists saw aliens. The scientists saw biology.
It's all a matter of perspective.
It is. It reminds us that the line between a miracle and a flock of nervous vultures is sometimes just a matter of what you're willing to believe. And I guess how willing you are to taste the evidence.
I will never get past the tasting part. That is some serious commitment to science. Thanks for joining us on this very weird deep dive.
My pleasure. Keep looking up.
Catch you next time.